So, considering the health situation of the country right now, which is reeling under the second wave of coronavirus, coming to the patients who have been tested positive for COVID and are suffering from hypertension, is having hypertension considered as a high risk for COVID? Does it raises the severity of the disease?
Yes, that's what the only study which were initially available for China. They found that people who had COVID and they had hypertension along with, and diabetes for that matter, they had higher chances of complications and the pneumonias and deaths and ventilation chances were higher in those people. And if you look at the secondary calculations out of it, it is said that hypertension is actually 90% stress. And if you take stress, stress releases certain bad hormones in your body, which are adrenaline and noradrenaline. And it is very well known fact that stress hormones change your immunity status. Your immunity is one thing which is creating problems for you in this COVID disease. Corona disease, the virus itself is not causing that much of a problem, as much as your reaction or your immune response to that virus. Usually that is why the problems appear after 5 days, 5 to 10 days, and maybe 12 days, that your immune response, when it becomes overactive, instead of killing the virus, it also starts damaging the body tissues, especially the lungs and the other organs. So that is the problem. And it is said that if you have more stress or more release of these hormones, you may actually be damaging your system much more as compared to the other people who are calm and quiet. So that is why in the recommendation it is there, don't panic. Unfortunately, we are there in a soup. In the soup, in the sense, there is a disease. It is killing us day in and day out. Hospitals are full. There is a panic created by oxygen deficiencies, remdesivir deficiencies, this deficiency and that deficiencies. But it is also creating a panic situation. People, what to talk about people who are having COVID? I'm talking about people who do not have COVID. There's a study in the US which has seen that the incidence of hypertension has increased by 4.5%, even in those people who are not COVID.
Okay.
Why? Because it's a knee-jerk reaction. Everybody is hoarding oxygen cylinders, oxygen concentrators at home. What is going to happen? What is going to happen? Let's find a bed. Let's do this thing. I mean, it's a kind of bad situation. I agree. But the panic out of that is also creating hypertension to go up in the general population, and the hypertensive response in people who have COVID actually leads them to have more vulnerability to complications. And this is my actually assessment, because I have been dealing with a lot of people on phone. You know, when they call me up, there are people who take it easy, and mind it, I see those who have panic response on the phone, they are likely to have more complications, persistence of fever and all those things, much more as compared to those who sound calm, quiet, and they say, okay, it just happened, 1 day fever and then cough and it's gone and I'm okay. Right. So there is a lot of factor play of the stress, and probably stress is leading to changes in immune response. And that is a reason for our vulnerability to complications in COVID environment.
Right. So, does COVID-19 actually cause blood pressure spikes in these patients?
Again, it's very difficult for us to segregate the COVID and the COVID panic. Once a person has COVID, there is a panic situation which is leading to a lot of problem. Right? So does COVID alone cause hypertension? Does COVID response or stress response cause hypertension? Yes, it does cause hypertension. But there are other reasons for COVID disease which can lead to hypertension. For example, if a person is given steroids, that would cause hypertension. If a person is given painkillers in the form of treatment for their fever, that would lead to sodium retention and hypertension. Many a times today, what we are doing is a lot of kadhas are going on in the houses,
Yes.
right? And kadhas, haldi and adrak and muleti, and they are very common contents of those kadhas. And to us in allopathy, we know that all these three things can lead to increase in blood pressure. The ginger family can lead to hypertension. So there could be reasons, and then you're doing saline, the gargles. Sometimes people use saline, the salt water gargles. That would lead to inadvertent high salt intake and increase in blood pressure. So if you ask me, can COVID virus directly lead to hypertension? Data is limited. It does not. But there are certain other parallel reactions which can definitely cause hypertension.
Right. So since you said that people are, taking or adapting all these kadhas and other home remedies to fight off or ward off the symptoms, there is also a problem of, self-prescribed medicines. What would you like to say about that?
Well, my saying or not saying is not going to change this frenzy in the public today. When they are seeing their near and dear ones die day in and day out because of COVID and in a very sick situation, they overreact. And the overreaction is because there are certain drugs which are supposedly at certain point in time may be showing some benefit in criticality of the situations, specifically knowing the steroids or remdesivir or maybe tocilizumab and all. And there is a huge bit of shortage because these drugs cannot be formed just like on a press of a button. And then when you say, okay, I want 100 more doses, you get 100 more doses. No, they are biological products. They take a lot of time to develop. And you have to take weeks and weeks for them to develop and come into the market. If there is a demand, you increase the production. They're costly drugs. They have to take a lot of time to develop and come into the market. And what happens if this wave goes down after maybe a month or so, when we find the wave has gone down, then that increased production is going nowhere. So, I mean, we have to be realistic in the picture. So that is why these people are actually self-medicating, self-storing their limb Cs, the vitamin Cs, vitamin Ds, and zinc and zinc-covate, and all those things being taken left and right by all these people. They forget at that point in time, overindulgence in vitamins also can cause you side effects. There are hypervitaminosis symptoms, vitamin D toxicities which can happen. So overindulgence into these things also has to be guarded. My suggestion is take them only when they are needed. The best immune fighter, if somebody asks me, what is the best immune fighter? It is the transcendental meditation, relaxation exercises. Calm down. Your body is going to heal yourself. If you push yourself against the wall, burn your calories, and be stressed, your immunity is going to go down. Okay. Your bad immunity is going to be there.
This is a really very good, very important point that everybody should actually listen to right now. People are stressed these days, and I think this is what is giving the virus the authority, or maybe the increasing the power of the virus to infect the person severely right now. So, any tips to bring down the sugar spikes at home, since we can't go to the hospitals right now?
Okay. So the sugar spikes and high blood pressure spikes, they are cousin sisters and brothers. Mm-hmm. So the same reasons are there for sugar spikes: stress, lack of exercise, dietary indulgence. So if you control these things, you say there is lockdown, how do I exercise? How do I go out? You don't have to go out to exercise. There are a lot of home yogas, home pilates, home aerobics. You can do that. And I would say that my formula is find excuses to exercise rather than excuses to rest. 90% of people who come across and sit across my table, they find excuses why they could not exercise. I say from tomorrow onwards, your formula is find excuses by what way you could walk 100 steps or 200 steps. Make sure you walk 10,000 steps a day. By whatever means, walk in house, but make sure that you complete 10,000 steps a day. Don't have to sit in front of the computer all the time and just whine away. Then the second thing is do yoga and meditation. This would help you relax and the sugar spikes would come down. And third thing is calories. You know, sugar is something which is your running currency for your bank. The body is a bank. So whatever you eat in calories is going to be stored in your account as fat and going to be converted into sugar as a running currency. That is at the time of need. So if you are stressed, if you're exercising, you need more sugars. So that is fine. That would happen. So that is the formula. Whatever extra calories you will take is going to increase your sugar spike, specifically the carbohydrates in diet. And carbohydrate means anything sugary and inclusive in starch. Starch means this potatoes or rice and all those things. They are hidden sugars, you know, or white flour, for example. Those are spiking your sugars. So those things should be minimized. That's the same thing for what I said for hypertension. So if you follow the DASH diet, the same thing is going to be putting your spikes on the sugars down.
So now that the COVID-19 vaccines are open for all age group above 18, is it advisable for a hypertension patient to get the jab?
Absolutely it is. As I said, hypertension people are more vulnerable to complications of COVID. I did not say they are going to contract COVID more. I said if they contract COVID, the complication rates are high, right? So we have to keep them protected. And the best way is, the only way this virus is going to go away is by vaccine developed immunity or COVID disease developed immunity. I would prefer vaccine developed immunity rather than COVID disease giving me the immunity, because there's a huge risk of person developing complications. If I say 20% of people would have some complications and 5% would have ICU care and there would be a lot of deaths, right? Mm-hmm. As far as vaccines is concerned, what is the risk of you having a side effect? 0.01%. Serious one. Fever is not what I call a side effect. Local pain is not what I call a side effect. That is going to happen. We should tolerate that. But serious adverse events are minimal or practically negligible. So you have to choose what you choose. You know, you choose vaccine-driven immunity, or you choose COVID disease-developed immunity.
Absolutely. So people are actually very scared of the side effects. So for the hypertension patients, what side effects can they expect, and what are the side effects when which can be a warning sign for them?
I tell people, hydrate yourself pretty well. Drink lots and lots of water once you get vaccinated. Many people who are on blood thinners, there are unconfirmed reports that clotting and all those things. I would say continue your blood thinners and press the site of vaccination for 5-10 minutes so that there is no hematoma formation. And that's true for any kind of muscle injection. That's not for vaccination. Hydrate yourself well, maybe for a day or so. Take paracetamol if at all your fever comes, or in general, if the person is at high risk, I would say take it any which ways for a day or two. And you should be fine. And learn again, mantra is relax. Don't panic.
Any precautions they should take before getting the jab? Like you said, what they should be doing after taking the vaccine. Anything that they should be doing before?
No specific precautions. Continue all your medications as advised.
Okay. So they should be continuing their medicines as they were doing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, coming to the third most important topic, are kids too at risk of hypertension?
Thanks for raising this question. I am absolutely disheartened with this data, which I am going to tell you, that our future population is going to be a sicker population. Why? Because when we were kids, we did not have mobiles, we did not have televisions. Television, even if it came, was black and white when I was pretty good, your age probably. And our interaction was interpersonal, physical games, and physical exercise. Today, we have all games, all exercise are, majority of people are on mobiles and computers. Physical component is going away from our from our lifestyle, most of us. Second is some other than how our education system inculcates uh, copybook reading, not practical training. You know, we have to inculcate exercise in our lives, and that is what I'm talking about, the kids. And I am seeing a lot of people, a lot of kids being obese and even hypertensive at a very young age, which is not the age for them to become hypertensive. There's so much of competition at every stage. 10th board, okay, now there is, if you clear 10th board, nothing else, then 12th board, if you clear 12th board, nothing else, then every stage of life they have a competition. So every competition they have to be prepared. They don't still know what certainty of life they would have, what career pathway they would have. So a lot of peer pressures and other things are building up, and that is something which is unfortunately increasing chances of hypertension even in children. Even in US studies, I mean, unfortunately, we do not have any data to quote here. There was a 4.5% increase in the chances of hypertension in pediatric age group.
Okay.
Obesity as well as hypertension is building up in children, which is not a good sign.
Absolutely. So what are the most common types of hypertension that is found in kids?
Right. So, as I said in the very beginning, when I was describing primary or essential hypertension and secondary or a hypertension where the disease lies somewhere else.
Yes.
In children, it is more likely to be a secondary hypertension. Why? Because some tumors or some kidney disease, commonly the kidneys, almost 25% of hypertension in children is because of the kidney involvement. So nephritis, or which starts from a sore throat or something, and then the kidneys are involved in the form of kidney damage and all. So those are important things which have to be inculcated. And so extreme hypertension, younger people having hypertension, secondary causes should be ruled out. Kidney disease is one. There are certain heart deformities, coarctation of aorta, Takahashi aortitis, which can be the other things. Then thyroid diseases, then, as I said, pituitary adenomas and other things can be causing hypertension, adrenal gland tumors, other things we looked at. So in pediatric age group, usual cause of hypertension is secondary, more common than the primary, but primary is building up. That's what I was alluding to a few minutes back.
So being a parent, how do I know that my kid is suffering from hypertension? Any different symptoms that they can show up?
As I said, taking the cue from the COVID situation, there is a family who does not have COVID, never had COVID for 1.5 years. But what are they doing? They are confined in the house. They have never gone out. They have all the oxygen cylinders, everything in their house stocked up, never had COVID. So one thing which I would like to recommend is believe in principles, not activities. The principles is inculcate your child the good habits of exercising regularly, good habit in understanding what is the right diet for that person, what is the bad diet for that person. Let them know they're intelligent. Why should you give directive to a child? Child's mind is the most inquisitive and most learned mind in the world.
Yes.
The brilliant minds there. You have to give them the logic. Why are you saying so? It's not that because I'm saying so, it is right. You have to give them logic. They'll understand. Once they understand, they'll incorporate the good lifestyle. And that is the best education you can give to your child. What is the good diet? what is a good level of exercise you should inculcate, relaxation. Don't, rather, we all culprits. Why I was smirking on when you asked this question, what should I do for my child? Because I was saying that this should not be an overreaction. Many of the children are actually getting the brunt of their parentage. And what the parents say, don't eat this, don't do this, go for a regular exercise. That's being thrusted on them, which is wrong, And we should always see how we can draw a balance between their performance, academic performance, and their career pathways. So this is another important thing. One of the maximum stress which is there on the children right now is their peer pressure. More than peer pressure is their parental pressure. तुम्हारे number 93 आए, तुम्हें कुछ अच्छी line नहीं मिलेगी. You will not get a good discipline. What would happen to your career? So there has to be an opening of new career pathways. That is something which has to be there, and our mindset should be open, broadened, to actually give it to our children. I think it's our duty to give the right environment to our children rather than the right direction to our children.
Absolutely. According to the experts, the third wave of coronavirus will be affecting the kids. So what measures should one take to keep the kids safe as after they have been diagnosed with hypertension?
So I think hypertension is not the only thing. Why is that theory coming out that children would be the cause of the third wave? Because till this time, 18 years or above are going to be vaccinated, right?
Yes.
18 years or below are not going to be vaccinated. And why are they not going to be vaccinated? Because vaccines have not been tried in children. Now is possibly FDA has approved Pfizer vaccine in 12 years to 18 years also, recently, just a couple of days. Again, efforts are to immunize them so that they don't contract the infection down the line once they become older and they are stressed and they are coming out of confinement. Second reason why this could happen is because till this time, one more thing in the COVID environment, why the hypertension is more in the children is because of their computer teaching. Their classes are web-based classes.
Screen time.
So their screen time is much higher. The physical time is going down any more. So once this wave is out, at some point in time, the schools will open again. And that would be the time when they are going to be vulnerable to catch and spread infections. So that is something where the experts think that the third wave is likely to be because of the kids, because they are not going to be vaccinated. They did not have the infection because they were confined, and they are vulnerable to get the infections. So the way ahead is keep calm, let them be educated on the importance of this masking and social distancing. Make sure that they do not have the release phenomenon. Once they go out of the house, I'm a free bird. So that situation should not be allowed. They should be educated enough that you go out, but please keep the social distancing, hand sanitization, and proper masking, because there is a vulnerable period. Third thing is that they have to be calmed down. And the fourth thing is we hope that the vaccinations would come for that age group also.
Right.
Already the Pfizer one is there, and all the other vaccines are also going to try in that particular age group.
Absolutely. So I'll end the discussion here, but the last thing that I would like you to tell us, what are those 5 food habits that one should refrain from to keep themselves safe?
Okay. So 5 food habits, I would say that, let me speak about the first thing. Avoid man-made items to the maximum. So that I cover 3 things in that one gesture.
Packaged food.
Man-made items are salt.
Okay.
The natural salt, which is present in every diet, in every food item, is good enough for you.
Right.
What you add for tastemaker as salt is something which is going to be avoidable. Avoid it to be maximum. Second man-made item is sugar. So if sugar is in natural products, in the fruits or even sugarcane, it is not as damaging as the concentrated sugar which you extract and use as a tastemaker. And third man-made item is milk and dairy products. That should be also minimized only for vulnerable age group. That means children where the growth is spurts are there, or people who have high requirements, maybe pregnancy and lactating mothers and all. So these three are man-made items. You know, milk would lead to ghee and butter and all those things. So that comes into the same bracket. So those contents should be minimized in diet. Second thing which I would like to say is the red meat. These things should be avoided. Red meat should be avoided in the sense that maybe in some sects, red meat is a part of the religious purposes. So in that sect, I usually promote that they can take the red meat for tasting purposes rather than eating purposes. So that is a formula which I give them. Instead of measuring these spoons and other things, I would say that all those items should be minimized. Just make sure that you are just using for tasting purposes rather than making the main course of diet. The third thing which I say is what should be more. That should be vegetables and fruits. They should be maximum in your diet. Mm-hmm. Even poultry, for example, chicken and fish, they are fine for non-vegetable people. Even eggs, they're fine, given that you take in limited quantity, maybe 1 or 2 eggs a day is fine. But don't fry them. So that is something, again, which is there. The fourth thing which I say is don't take fried stuff. Even if you have to add a ghee, oil, or whatever, smear it up a little bit, but don't fry. All those fried stuffs have a lot of trans fats, which are worst oils of them all. That is something which has to be very importantly understood, that fried stuff has to be minimized. And finally, the fifth item is eat to only 70% of your limit.
Right.
Eat to only 70%. Leave a space. Don't eat to your full, specifically when you are eating tasty. Sometimes when I talk to my patients here, I say, when they ask what not to eat, I say a single statement: what you like, you don't eat. What tastes good should be minimum. So obviously, taste makers are the basic problem. So what is tasty, just use them for tasting rather than eating. So right. These are the 5 principles I would like to say.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mittal, for joining with us. And I'm sure all your points will help our viewers to stay safe, especially during this COVID time. And also everything that you have spoken about, the kids, that will help them to keep them safe if there is a third wave coming up, and if the kids are at high risk. So thank you for everything.
Thank you. That was very nice, this kid. I enjoyed it. Thank you. I hope it was meaningful.
Yes, it was.